Welcome to the Inlet Podcast. I'm David Stiles.
I'm Charlie Carlson. This is a place for ideas, culture, wisdom, and history of the Eastern Shore to flow. Today,
we have Giovanni Rosanova. Giovanni, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. Glad to be here.
So happy to have you here. So how was the ride down from Chincoteague this evening?
Yeah, it's great.
How is Chincoteague now?
Straight shot. I mean, it's going to be busy. They're going to have the fire company's going to have their 100th anniversary celebration.
They're at 100 now.
Wow, I did not realize that.
For pony penning.
Yeah,
and I guess for the fire company as well. I'm definitely not a spokesperson for them, but the signs are everywhere, and it's all over that they're going to have a parade this Saturday.
Oh,
and then an open house at the fire company, and then this July will be the 100th anniversary of the pony penning event.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Have you ever been up there to a pony penning?
I think I went a couple years ago, actually.
Yeah,
I think I did.
You wouldn't forget it.
Yeah, maybe I did. Yeah. No, I definitely didn't. Then I went up when they brought all of them and they have them in the pens.
Yeah.
On Chincoteague.
On the Chincoteague side, absolutely. Yeah.
And we got to go up and pet them, and not pet them because they're like separated, right? There's
That's right.
Several.
And you don't want to try to pet them.
No, thank you.
You never want to. Yeah, right.
But I've never seen the actual ceremony where they bring them across the water and then they auction them off for a great cause. The
auction's my favorite part. That's really exciting.
Really?
That's with the auctioneer and the crowds, and it's just really exciting. But my family's tradition is to stand on Main Street. So after the swim, after they rest them for a while, then the cowboys parade them up Main Street, around the island, up Main Street to the carnival ground. And we live close enough to Main Street where we gather with friends and family, and we've got pictures of the kids as they're growing up every year in that same spot.
Nice.
After the ponies run up Main Street, take a picture in front of our neighbor's house. And it's just, that's our tradition. So this one's going to be a big one.
Yeah. I mean, the Chincoteague pony in itself is a huge tradition for a lot of people. I think it gets like national coverage. People come here just for the ponies,
Absolutely.
Which is cool. We're hitting 100 years. Yay.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Growing up on Chincoteague, we were there until 84 is when we moved from Chincoteague down to Cape Charles. But our house was there on the corner of Bunting and Willow, and that's part of the parade route.
Oh, nice.
And so I remember setting up a lemonade stand right there and selling lemonade for like 20 cents, 25 cents or whatever. And we'd make a killing, man. As kids,
that's awesome.
Like $100 because so many people, even then, even the 80s, I mean, in the 70s, it's always been huge. 100 years. I did not realize it was 100 years, right. But the amount of people that are attracted to the area is just phenomenal. I mean, everything shuts down. Chincoteague is like, if you're not on the island, you're not getting or coming or leaving. It's
and why
you're
would you
there.
Want to?
Right, exactly. So what year did you actually move to Chincoteague?
Yeah, that's
1999.
99.
Yeah. 99.
Okay. Yeah.
And been here since.
That's right.
Love it.
Love it.
Every
minute of it.
Every
made
minute.
a family, wife and kids, and my wife grew up in Chincoteague, and she's.
Is that what brought you here?
Article. What brought me here was the job working at Wallops.
Okay.
In the Sounding Rockets program, and but then met my wife at work, and then the rest is history.
Was it a culture shock?
It was a welcome change of pace. Let's put it that way. Because growing up in the D.C. area, so I was born in D.C., grew up just outside of D.C. on the Maryland side.
Nice.
And, city life, hustle and bustle, didn't know any different. Got the interview, came down here in January.
Wow, that's tough.
Came down here for an interview in January.
Yikes.
And that long stretch between
the Causeway?
Princess Anne, long stretch between Princess Anne and Pocomoke, where you're just straight shot through the trees.
You were like,
did I take a wrong turn? Was my first question. But went there. Interview was great, and then working for a company called Orbital Sciences way back then, and then had time after the interview and decided to go to the beach, out to Assateague, and just fell in love with it. As soon as I saw it, I was like, I got to live here.
Yeah,
and then it was just a welcome change of pace from the city life. And so, it's been great ever since.
Nice.
And you've been here for 26 years
That's
now.
Right.
And are you still a come here? Do they still have?
Oh yeah.
Ooh, yeah.
Thankfully, my kids are not. Because
there you go.
Mom's the original article, and they were all born here, and all born at the Salisbury Hospital, and so they're Shingatigers, but I'm still come here, but that's okay.
It's funny. I was talking to Craig McComb the other day, and he still calls me Davey. Because when we were growing up on Shingatig, everybody knew me as Davey.
Davey.
And so I still have that Tigger status. I'm still, because since I was born there, I'm a Tigger. But but it's the only people who still call me Davey are Shingatigers and my dad's family. Okay. Nobody else calls me Davey. So it's hilarious when I talk to him.
I'm glad I know that now.
Whenever I see Craig, he's like, "Hey, Davey, how are you?" Gives me a big hug, and I love Craig, and that's how people are on Shingatig. They open up their arms to you and want to give you a big old hug.
That's
and what experiences have you had like that?
Well, so my experiences is, because I moved there and I immediately fell in love with the nature and the culture. And that's the main ticket to making friends there is, move there and become part of the community as best you can. And,
how did you do that?
So early on, I'm a soccer guy from growing up. And one of my coworkers who also grew up in Shingatig needed help coaching a U17 team or a 17U team.
Okay.
And he said, "You're helping me coach soccer," because he found out, now I wasn't a great soccer player, but I at least knew the game enough to help with that. And that's where started with that. And now those 17-year-olds, now they're all in their, well, do the math, but some of them are, they've got families, and then they don't call me coach anymore, but that's okay. But they still remember that that season that we had with a bunch of goof offs on the soccer field, and
nice.
We probably won like 3 games the whole season.
Oh, I was going to add a little tidbit, and then we won a championship, right?
I think we did the second year.
Oh, okay. Nice. So you did it a couple of years.
We at least played in the championship. I think we lost, right? We lost, but we had a pizza party afterward, and the winning team didn't. So a couple of the kids from the winning team were like, "Can we come to your pizza party?" It's like, "Come on, bring it." Yeah.
So. That's an interesting theme that we're coming across on this show. Is a lot of several things bring people together, but one of them being sports.
Yeah.
And Saturday mornings, and that sort of thing, which is pretty cool. But the only time that I go on Shingatig is to go to the lighthouse and the park and see the ponies, of course. And then it's the taco place. What's it called? Taco Pico? Yeah. Oh, have you had?
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of great places on the Eastern Shore to get a taco, but that's hard to beat. That and what's the ice cream place?
Well, there's a couple.
There's
Mr. Whippy, and then
the Island
Creamery.
Yeah.
The Island Creamery. Yeah. Oh, the Island Creamery is the OG though.
Well, Mr. Whippy, I remember they had the mobile truck. Mr. Whippy. Yeah. Do they still do that? I don't know if they do or not.
It exists, but it doesn't drive around anymore.
That was a daily thing, and we would go out, and they would have a thing that it was the root beer slushy and the vanilla ice cream that were mixed up, and I forget what they call that, but I would get that all the time.
Oh my goodness!
So
when the line goes down the sidewalk for both of those places, you're up against something good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That, and there's a donut place too on there. Oh, they got good donuts.
Sandy Pony.
Yes.
Pony, right?
Yeah, they are good.
So good.
Yeah, my daughter used to work there, and that was good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you kind of like
home treats.
I would compare like the Eastern Shore has got kind of like a couple little hubs of civilization.
Yeah, like where?
Right, like Cape Charles.
Where are you coming from?
Well, I'm Cape Charles area originally, but I'm now in Exmoor.
Gotcha.
So I'm getting a different experience, a different shore experience. And I always argue that we're so split up in these little divisions. You're an upper shore. I would even put Shingatig in its own class of Eastern Shore people.
I didn't hear. So the common term is either mainlander or down the county.
There you go.
And you guys are both in that regard, right?
Yeah. But that's cool that you have access with your kids and everything to all of those great things that are provided.
Sure.
And, but there is a bit of a seasonality to it,
but when you live there, you're always busy, especially with younger ones,
That's, I feel like the biggest complaint, everybody that comes here is like, oh, there's nothing to do in the winter,
not being creative enough.
Yeah, exactly.
In my opinion.
Right. Yeah. And that goes to back like nature and culture, like what you were saying. Like if you can't embrace those two things, you might not have a great longevity here.
Right.
which is, kind of cool.
Well, it's true because it's very hard to bring someone here from outside the area. And as well as you know as well that when you're hiring on new people to come to Wallops or come to the area, and they may like it, but their spouse doesn't like it.
Yeah.
Or they come in during the summertime, and then during the wintertime, everything shuts down, especially, I mean, even on Chincoteague, I think pretty much 80% of the island really shuts down over the winter.
There's still some hot spots, but you're right. Yeah, for the most part.
Right, right.
It's a small handful of places. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And so when they come here, it's like culture shock to them, and they leave after 6 months to a year, and then you have to go through the hiring process again. And
you also got to be willing to drive.
Yeah, that's right. Anywhere.
As a family, we've just come to accept you got to drive an hour.
You got to drive places
to enjoy something. Coming down here. I mean, we love eating at El Maguey. We love especially when there's in the winter basketball games or late fall volleyball games. There's if we're coming down to Northampton or if we're coming down, there's all right. We're really looking forward to the dinner afterwards at some of these cool places.
There's limited spots on the Eastern Shore. You look forward to those limited spots, though.
But that's the cool thing about this place too, is that you do have to drive an hour, because that means people have to drive an hour to get here. So we still are very secluded, but there's all the people that come in and out, and that's why really one of the reasons why this podcast was started was because of the questions of what happened here? Why is it like this? What family has been around? Why are the Smiths and the Custuses and the Ameses, like they're everywhere because they've been on the shore since the 1600s, and stories like that people want to actually to learn about and to hear. And coming here like you did from around the DC area, what are some of the things that were kind of like, wow, like I want to learn that right away. Like I need to know why is it like this? Do you have stories about things like that?
Well, I mean, the just the history of Chincoteague. One of the first things I did was I bought that book called Once Upon an Island by Kirk Mariner, and that was a fascinating read. And first few pages, the European explorer that discovered Chincoteague Inlet, Giovanni da Verrazzano. I was like, okay.
Whoa.
Yeah. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
The same guy that the bridge at the northern end of Assateague is named after, and the same guy that the Verrazzano bridge in New York City is named after. Yeah.
That's
right here.
It wasn't me.
It wasn't you? Okay.
It wasn't me, but an Italian explorer. But the funny thing, and it's in the book, is that, he discovered Chincoteague Inlet, but he sailed up and completely missed the mouth of the Chesapeake Bay. So the thought is maybe he was sailing at night and didn't quite realize that there was this huge body of water that he just sailed past.
Yeah. There's a lot of great books like that. I love reading like history about the Eastern Shore. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. So why is it this? Why were we in a tourist sort of economy? But that book explains that it all started really as a lot of livestock, believe it or not, and then the fishing industry, and now the tourist industry. So it's, getting into that. So first moving here, being single, had a lot of time to read. And so, was able to get caught up that way. But then meeting friends, asking questions, Do
you like to hunt or fish or?
So I did hunt for a few years when I was like maybe late 20s, early 30s, a little bit of duck hunting.
Okay.
I went with paid guides at first, and then as I became friends with folks that had their own duck blinds and their own boats, would go with them. And then my oldest son really got into it when he, got to the sort of 12 years old.
Oh,
and went with a friend and his son, so that two dads and two sons, in the duck blind together with their dog. And,
that's cool.
That was pretty cool. And then my son kind of took off on his own with his friends.
That's what I was going to bring up.
And that's kind of when I stopped, because he would take my shotgun and he would go with his friends to go duck hunting. But that was cool.
It becomes like part of our, almost like an after school activity to go hunting. Like, when the turkey season's here.
That's what I want. I haven't done
black
that
powder
yet.
season.
I want to do the wild turkey. I haven't done that yet. Yeah.
That'd be cool.
That's springtime, right?
Yeah.
That's
And
springtime season.
Like, I think it just got done, or I don't know if it's still in.
I missed it
I don't
again.
know. I get all my information from my students. They're just like, oh, are you going hunting? It's like, maybe.
That's one. Another area of somebody we need to bring on is a hunting guide.
Ooh, that's a good
we
idea.
have that's something that we really need to, because that's some good stories there. And going back how on Cobb Island and how presidents used to come here and hunt, and for decades during the 1800s and early 1900s, and there's all that rich hunting history here. So I need to make sure that we follow up with that one too.
I don't mind telling you an embarrassing story.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Hunting.
Yes.
So my wife bought me a hunting trip with a guide.
Nice.
Okay. But I was solo. It was just me in the blind. He dropped me off by myself.
Wait, he wasn't with you?
Well, he had multiple people. He had multiple people, and he was dropping everybody off at different blinds on the northern side of Chincoteague.
Mm-hmm.
So I was by myself way at the northern end, and gave us all walkie-talkies. And here comes a duck floating past. And I was like, I didn't know what the rules
Right.
are. Can I shoot him out of the water? He said, you can jump in the water and wring its neck for all I care. Yeah, just, So I lined it up, and first shot.
Nice.
And thankfully he got in his boat and he came to retrieve it, because I didn't have a dog with me.
Yeah.
So he came to retrieve it, and he said, that's not a duck. I'm like, well, what is it? He said, well, first of all, it's got webbed toes, not webbed feet.
Wait, I think I know what it was. Cormorant?
It was a grebe.
It was a grebe.
I never understood what a grebe. So it's kind of in between a seagull and a duck.
Yeah.
So
that's a funny
I won't
story.
tell you who it was. It was so many years ago. But anyway, that bird ended up in the marsh.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah,
I know that's what
After that, I figured out how to spot a duck instead of
my biggest.
grebe.
I mean, I've been here a while, and I still don't know my ducks. Like, I'm the worst. I would imagine, like, hey, like sending a picture, like, can I shoot it? Is this one legal? Is this in season?
Well, then I've told that story at work, and buddies at work. They waited till the Christmas party, the Christmas luncheon,
to bring it up,
and then they roasted me.
Oh, man!
You remember Tom Shockley?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. He got up. He bought like a children's book of animals, and he held it up in front of everybody and told the story about me and showed me this, not a duck, and finally got to the duck page and say, this is a duck. Yeah.
He rearranged the papers.
I still have that book
to put the duck last.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. Did you actually tell somebody that story, or did the guide?
I love telling that story.
That's awesome.
Most people would be like, man, I'm not saying anything about it.
Embarrassed by that. Yeah.
Come on, typical city boy trying to. That's the perfect story.
You're just happy to shoot a shotgun, probably.
That was
right.
I was. Yeah. I'm happy that I shot where I aimed and it worked. It's just I could have claimed the sun was in my eyes, but it wasn't.
Well, have you actually bagged any ducks since then?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Plenty.
All right.
And the best one wasn't me. It was my dad. I took my dad years later, and he lined up 3 brants, and he just waited for them to swim by. And when they were all in line,
he did
got them all with one shot.
That's awesome.
And then we took them home and ate them. So that was the best part, because it was me and Dad. He had just turned like 70, I think. And that was one of the things that he had never done and he wanted to do. And
he's a pro.
I had a friend that had a blind and was happy to take us. And that was a good day.
That sounds awesome.
Dad got to shoot 3 geese with one shot. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
I love this. We're talking about Eastern Shore culture with, a professional scientist. Like, scientists are people too, right?
Engineer.
Like engineer.
Yeah.
So
scientists are smarter, and I can say that. Yeah.
Okay. Can you talk a little bit about your history, like your story, like what you studied, if you can?
Yeah.
Go back to where you grew up and how.
Can I go back even further?
Yeah,
just a little bit, because I just mentioned Dad.
Yeah.
Okay. So Mom and Dad grew up in southern Italy in the region called Calabria, which is at the toe of the peninsula. And so they were born there. Even my brother and sister were born in Italy. I'm the third of 3 children after 10 years. So they were born there. Then they went to Canada first. Then they came to the United States. And I was born after a while in the United States. All my parents and my brother and sister both became U.S. citizens eventually. But mom and dad were farmers in southern Italy. And then
what
eventually,
were they farming?
The whole thing.
The whole thing.
So grain, I think there was grain, all kinds of vegetables. They had livestock, and it was
full package. Yeah.
The full package. Yeah.
That's cool.
But then, just poverty kind of struck southern Italy. So, they all had to leave.
Around what year was that?
In the 1960, let's see, my brother was 61, 60. So I would say 66, 65, 66. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Cause I was born in 74. Mm-hmm. So by then, mom stayed home. Dad taught himself how to be an auto body mechanic. Wow. He got a job at a local body shop, and that guy taught him a few things.
That's cool.
And then he rented a bay. And my uncle had a car dealership, Italian cars, Alfa Romeos.
Oh, nice.
And he got a bay in my uncle's shop doing body work. So the rest of it was, engine transmission work. Dad did the body work and sort of taught himself. And then eventually 1979, rented out a building of his own, started his own business as
good for him. Wow.
For a body shop.
And where was this?
In Riverdale, Maryland.
Okay.
So right next to Hyattsville. Mm-hmm. So I grew up in Hyattsville. Excuse me. Hyattsville is just outside of DC. If you look at DC as like a baseball diamond, Hyattsville is kind of like where the first baseman stands, before the ball is batted. Yeah, who's on first, right? Just outside of DC in Maryland. Excuse me. And growing up, Dad made me go to the body shop from age 10, every Saturday.
Wow.
And I hated it. I didn't, force me to go. I would call mom and she would find an excuse to get him to let me go early, but eventually, by the time I was 17, he sent me to school on how to mix paint. And so he started letting me do more than just like picking up tools and cleaning up the shop and sanding and stuff like that. But I was able to, when the car was painted, buff it and polish it, and then eventually let me actually paint. But all the while, my brother had gone to college and sister had gone to community college, and he wanted me to go to college. Mom and dad both did. And so went to school at Catholic University in DC.
The Catholic
University of America. University. That's right. I'm a Cardinal. That's the mascot.
Go Cardinals.
That's right. Mechanical engineer. That was the degree.
Wow,
mechanical engineering. And so when I graduated, I was like, all right, Dad, ready to take over the body shop. He said, heck no. I didn't bleed and sweat for you to come back and take care of this hole. Mm-hmm. So, he continued to work. And then eventually when he retired, he sold the business to one of the guys that worked for him.
Cool.
So it kind of continued that way. But so got the degree, now getting into the story of, what brought me here. Got a mechanical engineering job at the main campus of Goddard Space Flight Center in Greenbelt. And then heard about this cool opportunity to work at Wallops to work on sounding rockets. And I think I was probably the first one to reply to that email. Who wants to move to the beach and work on rockets?
Right.
And so then that story of the January interview and then,
there's a story.
Remember earlier I said came down here in January for the job interview?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I thought there was another story. My bad.
And then worked as a mechanical engineer in the sounding rockets program, and then just kind of moved to different parts of the organization since then. But yeah, mechanical engineer.
Nice.
That's cool.
What is the difference between, because there's all different types of engineering, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's the difference between mechanical and civil?
Okay. Civil are target makers, and mechanical are the ones that shoot the target. So we had friendly rivalries within the nerdy engineering programs. Mm-hmm. And so the mechanical engineers were gearheads. Okay.
And
the electrical engineers were spark chasers. and the civil engineers are target makers.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Or electrical engineers call it pointy heads too.
Yeah,
Like,
that's
Pointy
right.
heads. So civil engineering,
to really answer your question is
Yeah.
more buildings, bridges,
structures,
structures, that kind of thing. Yeah.
And you were interested more in like your dad's shop sort of deal, like
Right.
working with
Right.
materials.
Right. In fact, the dream back then was to work in a Formula One racing team.
oh, dude.
That was the dream. And I was totally trying to get into, eventually getting on a racing team, but there was an opportunity to move to Arizona and work at GM's Desert Proving Ground. And I think I put in an application. I can't remember, but anyway,
You are a gearhead, huh?
Well, you grow up in the body shop.
Yeah.
Even though I hated it when I
That's
was 10 years
cool.
old, eventually came to love it and really appreciate it because that hands-on experience went a long way for engineering school because
That's
you could
sweet.
actually understand what you were working with, right? But then I figured, the aerospace industry was more prominent in the DC area. So I figured, okay, rockets are cool too.
Yeah. So your you got a master's?
So I did a bachelor's and a master's, both at Catholic.
Nice.
Yeah.
Did you have to do a final project or?
Yeah.
What was that about?
It was a control project on, it was a vibration control project. So, when structures vibrate and they make a lot of noise or, like think of your car. If the door panel's rattling, it makes the drive uncomfortable. So there's a lot of different applications for like noise suppression. So they're not so much like in door panels of cars, but vibration control was a big thing, when I was coming up then and learning control theory. And so I made a little mechanism that when a structure vibrated, I could program it to counter the vibration with just a computer program and some of the a simple circuit and the equipment. So
That's cool.
That was like my master's project. It was simple, but the complicated part was actually programming the circuit to sense the motion of the vibrating beam and then use the little actuator to counter it. So you'd pluck it and it would start vibrating. But then you turn the controller on and it would kind of stop it from. So
that's cool.
Yeah,
that's coding. Yeah,
don't want to get too deep because then we'll lose the audience. But
yeah, that's true.
No, but that's really cool because the testing that we perform on the sounding rockets, like the sign test and vibe test and all that stuff.
That's right.
I mean, that's right there.
Yeah, all that control theory goes right into the test setup and is built in there and then as you probably know when the bird is flying and there's an attitude control system, the pointing system, same types of algorithms to, if you want it to point there, but it's pointed over here
to correct it.
To correct, and use, software basically to figure out where am I? Where do I want to be? And then turn on all the jets and the actuators to point in that direction. Right?
I don't know. We're getting into the.
So yeah, we're getting
into
deep.
How far has the software come? Like, has it come a pretty far distance?
I mean, I would say those types of control theory is pretty stabilized.
Really?
At this point, just from the many years ago when I actually got deep into it to now, and I just listen to the really smart people that know what they're talking about in that regard. And I don't know that there's a whole lot new, but I could be wrong.
Well, but really though, I mean, Wallops has been that test bed since the 40s.
That's right.
We've talked about on the show before with Kelly Johnson and Werner von Braun actually being on Wallops Island and doing these testings of their, the early programs.
Yeah, it's meant for it. That place is meant for testing new things.
Right. Yeah. And we've seen that like we're still using of course, everything that they came up with then, but it hasn't changed a whole lot since then. I mean, the sounding rockets it kind of is it's not new technology. It's the technology that they were testing back then, and we're just building on top of that.
Yeah, we're using technology for the purpose of doing research
Right.
in different areas, whether it's upper atmosphere measurements or putting a small telescope on board and looking at some kind of deep space object. So using that technology to make new discoveries, not necessarily developing new capabilities or new techniques. We do that too, but it's mainly to help the research world, make new discoveries and or develop a new instrument for taking some kind of measurement and then proving it out on a smaller rocket, so that later on it can be used on a bigger platform, like a big orbiting telescope or a deep space probe or something like that. So Wallops is great because it allows that sort of testing mentality. Try it out on the relatively quick, relatively cheap, make sure it works, and then graduate it up to a larger flight platform.
That's what I loved about when I worked in the Sounding Rocket program. One of the programs that I worked with was we would launch basically a telescope into space, and it would calibrate a satellite that was looking at the sun. And that was with from Colorado. I'm trying to remember the scientist's name that I worked with. Remember
Dr. Woods. Yeah.
Dr. Woods. Yes, I have you may know the story I'm getting ready to tell. So went out in White Sands, did a mission out there, and it was a telescope mission that we did. And I love working with Dr. Woods and his whole group. I really enjoyed them, and I met so many great people in the Sounding Rocket program, and he and his group was one of them. Well, so we go out one morning to launch a rocket, and at the top of the rocket there was a thing called a snorkel that attaches to it, which actually it keeps it under vacuum.
That's right.
And so the snorkel is at the very top of the rocket. Well, we get into count and get to hot count, and when we go to mechanically remove the snorkel from the rocket itself, it would not come out. It was stuck. And so this is sitting on top of, I think that was a 3-stage, I think. Probably two, right.
There, yeah.
And so this payload is sitting on top of 2 solid rocket motors, and they're like, hey, we need to get that snorkel out. And I was like, well, how do we do that? Like, well, we have to physically remove it. I was like, okay, well, how are we going to do that?
You had to climb to the top of the rocket?
So we took a man lift out to the rocket, and they have video of me doing this. I was actually taking a rubber mallet, beating on the rocket, on the snorkel to try to get it out because it was stuck. Dude, there was like 2 solid rocket motors that were on that this thing is sitting on top of, and I'm beating on it with a hammer to try to get it out.
That's crazy.
We did it safely. We went through the protocols. We went through the steps.
Yeah,
we
you
did
had
everything.
a procedure, right?
Yes,
yeah.
We had everything.
Beat 3 times.
That's right. That's right.
Report back. Beat 3 more times. Report back.
Right. But it finally came out, and the mission.
You had your hard hat on the whole time, right?
I did.
Yes, you did.
And my wrist strap. I have my wrist strap on.
But we say jokingly, but seriously, we don't just go willy-nilly doing these kinds of things. It's got to be thought out. It's got to be, approved. So
that's right.
Agreed upon by everybody. It's like, we got to do this safely now.
Yeah. But we did it. We got it off, and Dr. Woods was able to get the science the information that he needed to calibrate his satellite because of the program that they were running. And but I loved the Sounding Rocket program and the history behind it, and the people and the science that we do, and the things that we traveled. I traveled all around the world for it, and I really, really enjoyed that program so much, and I was glad to be a part of that history. And I mean, you've been a part of that history too. And is there anybody that you think of first that, man, like that is somebody I respect and I want to talk about, and I want to share the world of how they were in the science or just whatever they did for the Sounding Rocket program? Do you have any of those stories?
So, I mean, there's so many. There's people that we'd launched for, the researchers, from the places like Colorado, like the Dr. Woods says. The one researcher that comes to mind immediately is Jim LaBelle. He was at Dartmouth, I think, at the time. I probably got that wrong, but whatever university he was from, listening to him explain what measurement he wanted to take and why it mattered on Earth and why it was interesting and not just for, textbook knowledge, but just why it would be applicable to, life on Earth, satellite communication, radio communication, how the upper atmosphere affects that kind of thing. That he was like your textbook mad scientist. His hair was all messed up, tall, lanky, but just so engaging when he talked, and just he's supposed to give like a 5-minute summary on the research he wants to do. But he would go but he had everybody glued. Mm-hmm. Oh, and then we would get into the engineering part of the how are we actually going to get him up there? But everybody was just so glued to what he said. But then so what I'm explaining is that our program basically gives them the ride, gives their instrument the ride to space. We build everything around it.
But you don't build the actual.
We don't build the actual instrument that's taking the measurement. That comes in from a university or a research center. But we give, and so the people on basically our side of the equation, providing the launch vehicle, providing the subsystems to make it all work. To try to single one person out would be unfair. All right, I'll say Dave Stiles.
Yeah, there you go.
But just one thing culturally that's just ingrained in everybody is getting it done right, and getting it done quickly, because it's a small program. We're meant to do things relatively quickly. A whole mission life cycle is usually 2 years or less. Okay, which is for the rest of NASA, that's like lightning speed.
Yeah.
But you don't hear "not my job," and everyone's that's like, right. If something needs to be done, everybody chips in.
That's
and
right.
everybody, they're not climbing all over each other or anything and doing things in a dangerous way, but just everybody's that's just a cultural thing that's just ingrained. Is like, how do we get it done? Because we don't want to just walk away because something's not working. If something's not working, how do we figure it out so we can get it to work? And that's just ingrained in everybody, not just in the Sounding Rockets program, but all of Wallops.
That's right.
I think that's just part of the culture.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's part of, you're right, the culture. And that's why it's so important for people to understand that those that work at Wallops, they love the area, they love the people, they love the job. And a lot of them don't even see it as a job. It's part of their life. And that's what makes the shore as a whole, but also, just focusing on Wallops right now, makes it run so well is because of that. Is because they look out for each other and they truly care about when somebody comes in from the outside, like one of the researchers that come in, or a customer that comes in, like we truly give them a great customer experience and really show them that we care and we make it happen every single time. That's one of but that's up and down the whole Eastern Shore. Like that's just a culture ingrained thing with the folks from the Eastern Shore. Yeah. And I know you've seen
and looking to the next generation to with the internships and the student launch opportunities. Those are just part of the every day, every year process, because we see the value in making sure the next generation gets a chance to do what we do.
Right, yeah. Right. And creating that pipeline on the Eastern Shore, like with the aerospace programs that we've talked about on here, like Dr. Rachel White, who's doing the program from ODU, who's really wants to come on the show too. And we've got to make that happen, because she really wants to come on and spread her message too about the Aerospace Academy of the Eastern Shore and how creating that pipeline with folks from the region will continue to have that caring, that love, that want to make things succeed.
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to that. Yeah, I've a lot of the going back to the Sound and Rocket program real quick. Like a lot of the researchers and stuff and places that we've been. What's one of the like places that you like want to go back to? Like would go tomorrow back to?
Well, in my particular job, I didn't get opportunities to go to a whole lot of places like you did.
Mm-hmm.
But the one place I did get to go to that I would love to go, I've been a few times, love to go back, is Alaska. I mean, that before I ever moved here, Alaska was on my bucket list because I used to watch that show, Northern Exposure.
Oh yeah.
You remember that?
Mhm.
And even though it was filmed in Washington State of all places, right?
Yeah.
Just that whole show is like, I got to get to Alaska. And when I finally did, it was in the dead of winter, but I didn't care. And it was just an amazing experience. And the 2 or 3 times I've been back, it's just soak it all in. Just beautiful up there.
It is.
It's just amazing. And then another bucket list is Australia. Had a chance a few years ago to go there, but didn't take the opportunity. What I did it wasn't really needed in the field. But man, the pictures from that Australia campaign were just amazing. Everybody had so much, but it was in like one of the very remotest, if that's a word, part of the continent.
Yeah, Northern Territory.
But it was still an amazing experience for them.
Nullenby.
Yeah, Nullenby.
Yeah. There was a not factory, the mining operations up there.
Couldn't tell you the name of it, but that's why that town exists, because of the local mining operation.
Everything's red.
But that's it. Yeah, all the red clay. Everybody's boots came home with, the red clay from the Northern Territory of Australia.
That was so cool how we actually helped and had the Aboriginal tribes and that were in the area and were on board and actually helped build that. We built a rocket range out in the middle of nowhere.
Really?
And it was a major undertaking, and we were able to set that up and had all the local groups and.
That's sweet.
Scott Bissett was huge in orchestrating that, but it's really cool how we were able to establish something like that and to help the local area out and launch successfully out of there, and that was neat. I love Norway. Norway is one of the coolest places that we launched out of, and the people and the culture there, and what did you think of the very first? Did you ever see a moose when you were up in Alaska? What did you think of the very first time you saw that?
It was crazy how a huge body mass on top of these toothpick
little legs.
Toothpick legs.
They got tiny little legs.
How do they even support that?
They got giant kneecaps, though. I'll tell you that.
Right. I just remember like driving and seeing this thing on the side of the road that was like with the antlers.
I saw a mama. I didn't, but I wish I had seen one with the antlers. But still, just this huge mass on top of these toothpicks.
It's crazy.
What do you think the deer hunters around here would how they act if they went up there or saw a moose that was walking around down here?
Right.
Well, you guys have a special type of deer on the island.
The Sika?
Yeah. Which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
All right, I have a question. This is just because I don't know. What's the difference between what is a sounding
Great question.
rocket?
Right. So that word doesn't have anything to do with how loud they are. The word sounding is an old nautical term that means to take a measurement.
Okay.
Even today, when you go out in your boat, you take a sounding of the depth. Like you take a stick and you see you got depth finders now, but to take a sounding of the depth was to take a measurement of the depth. And a sounding rocket takes a measurement in the other direction. So in the early days of the sounding rockets program, they were all small, like meteorological rockets that would go and take a measurement of the conditions in the upper atmosphere. So they were taking a sounding.
Gotcha.
Right. And now they're bigger, they're more sophisticated. We do a wider range of measurements, whether it be upper atmosphere measurements or, like we said, taking a telescope and turning it around and looking at something and taking a measure of it.
Yeah, that's
a measurement
crazy,
of it that way. So it's a measuring rocket.
Okay, gotcha. So compared to like a rocket that I would see on TV, that's like a SpaceX rocket or in terms of size.
Yeah, so what we're launching is basically missiles repurposed for doing science experiments instead of a weapon system.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
How much is just because I have one student that's really interested in rockets. She's the president of our STEM club. We bought a bottle rocket launcher. Liam's in physics, and he asked today. We're at the point where we're doing our final projects. He was like, "Can we launch rockets today?" And I was like, "No, sorry, man, we're busy."
But Wallops has a great outreach program for all the local schools, year round, and then other opportunities.
Yeah, and this one student I think was a part of it, and she's super into weather balloons.
Okay.
Do you guys do those? Is that against your business? What are some pros and cons of sending a sounding rocket versus a weather balloon?
Okay, so I'll make a distinction between a weather balloon and a scientific balloon.
Oh, okay.
So a weather balloon is usually a small, launched by hand that has some kind of instrument package on the bottom of it that measures the winds, temperatures, pressures, that kind of thing. That's a weather balloon. And we use those to support rocket launches.
Oh, you do? Okay, cool.
Get an idea, to get a profile of what's going on in the atmosphere before we launch.
Gotcha.
So that we know that the conditions are right for launching, and not just sounding rockets, but the bigger rockets too. A scientific balloon is a completely different animal, bigger than a hot air balloon that you take a joyride in.
Yeah,
even bigger. You can fit a football stadium inside of them when they're fully inflated at 90,000 feet. No, they're that big.
Oh my goodness!
But they're carrying thousands of pounds of basically a what would be a satellite, but instead of orbiting around the Earth in space, it's a much more affordable way of getting a large instrument to the edge of space and floating up there for days or weeks and taking pictures of a deep space object or upper atmospheric measurements for multiple days. Versus the sounding rockets, it's minutes. Okay,
yeah.
Minutes of data. Balloons don't go quite as high, but they're at the edge of space for days, weeks, and so there's a trade-off there. Do you need lots of data for a long period of time, and can you live with looking through a little bit of atmosphere, or do you need to completely be outside of the atmosphere but can live with just a few minutes of data? So that's the trade-off between a rocket and a balloon. Gotcha.
Well, I didn't know that they were used together, so that's great to hear that. There's one little piece of the balloon is like a calibration almost but that's cool that I like it when multiple methods are used.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's some launches where we'll actually have multiple weather balloons that go up to ensure that we're getting the proper measurements so that we can change the launcher settings in real time. That way we know we're going to give our customer the perfect trajectory of for the rocket for what they're looking for.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Do you feel like and what triggered this was you said it basically brings up a satellite. Do we have too many satellites up there?
So that there is such thing as the concept of space junk.
Space junk.
Right. But that's all cataloged. Every piece up there is being tracked, and yeah, at some point it's going to get.
Does that affect your launching though? Like
it does, because we have to do a calculation to make sure we're not going to get too close to anything that's still operating, still valuable, especially the International Space Station that has people on it.
Yeah.
So yeah, those calculations are done for every launch to make sure we're going to miss by a long margin. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well,
don't just launch willy-nilly. You
Right.
gotta take all that into account. Yeah.
I figured that, but one of the things that we've talked about is the uniqueness of the Eastern Shore in its location in terms of creating the Wallops Island program. Could there be other locations that we could develop on the East Coast potentially, or what do you think?
There's always a possibility, but population growth is the main one of the main constraints. And then there's shipping lanes, there's aircraft lanes that have to be considered. So a whole lot has to. It's not just do you have a piece of land that doesn't have a lot of population on it. It's just what else is going on around it, and who's willing to invest in the infrastructure to make it happen. Yeah.
Yeah, we've actually talked about that on here before. I have a dream of setting up another launch site at the southern end of the shore at the old wildlife refuge, the old Air Force Station down in Kiptopeke.
Interesting.
Yeah. Is there enough demand? Can you talk about that? The demand for putting for sounding rockets? Is there a high demand for?
So for sounding rockets, we're in pretty good shape in terms of where we can launch around the world, and available launch sites.
Okay.
It's the very busy new sort of commercial launch business that's driving a lot of demand right now.
Gotcha.
I haven't looked at any kind of studies to see, what could be needed in, the next however many years. But yeah, I mean, just like any industry, as it grows, it needs to expand.
Yeah, I just feel like we went through this slump in and out, like NASA was dying, but then it was back. And I think it's an important part of our culture and our society here is to have that program up at Wallops, so I want to make sure that that's still happening.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
So to looking past what you want to do next after, I wanted to ask you this question. When you retire, what do you look at? Do you want to set up a Formula One team then? You want
That'd be sweet.
Go back to kind of your roots.
By then, they're all going to be electric. I don't know if I'm.
You think so?
There's already a F1E class, I think.
Get out of here! I never knew that.
I think there is actually a.
Does it go faster?
He's going to look it up.
Yeah.
Is there? Acceleration wise, yeah, but I don't know about top speed. And then, of course, how long can they go?
Are you a pro electric car person?
In the right place, in the right situation, like in the city, I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing idea.
I don't know about it around here, but that's just me. But I drive the beat up old Suburban.
Oh, that's true.
That's the Beachmobile.
Mm-hmm.
I love
all reliable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow,
Formula E, not Formula 1E, for Formula E. There you look at them.
Is there an Alfa Romeo Formula E?
Who knows?
When I was in Sicily, I was introduced to Alfa Romeos, and we had a Alfa Romeo Spider as our car.
That was my first car.
Man, I was all over the island with that thing. I loved that so much, and I fell in love with Alfa Romeos at that point. It was 6-speed. Uh-huh. I mean, I would hop in it.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
It was blue.
Okay, mine was black.
Yeah, it was blue.
Mine came from a junkyard. The engine was in the trunk, like in pieces.
Yeah.
So Dad found it in the junkyard. My uncle rebuilt the engine and put it back in. Dad gave it a paint job, made me buff it, which I was happy to do.
Right.
And so that was my first car. It was an Alpha Spider, a black Alpha Spider, but it came out of the junkyard.
That's sweet.
Yeah, that was neat.
I always had I worked a lot on boat engines growing up.
All right.
Mainly 2-strokes.
Well, I need to invite you to my backyard because mine needs work.
Yeah?
Yeah, my 88 Special Johnson needs work.
Perfect. What's wrong with it?
Well, the engine's running pretty good. Mm-hmm. Right now, hopefully it's simple. The power tilt and trim motor's not working right. And so I'm gonna.
Okay.
I bought a replacement. I just haven't installed it yet. So hopefully that's the trick.
But I remember when I was working before the YMCA in Cape Charles, it was Cape Charles Marine under Phil Morris.
Did you work there too?
Yeah.
I did like 5 summers in a row. I never knew that.
No way.
Yes, I did.
When were you working there?
I started there I was 12 years old because I was good friends with his son, Philip.
Yeah.
And I was 12 years old. That's crazy, dude. We never talked about that.
We've never talked about this.
And so that was what, 90, 91, the first summer when I started there. And actually he hired me just to cut his grass. But then he taught me how to actually work on outboard motors.
That's cool.
That's cool, man.
Yeah, super fun.
Huh, so how long did you do that
I was only there freshman and sophomore year of college. Yeah.
Okay.
So that must have been 2010, 2011.
Man.
But I was doing bottom jobs and I had the worst work, man. He was just like, good luck, here you go. People used to call him the boat Nazi because he was just so mean to
but now
everybody.
how grateful are you for that experience?
So grateful because he taught me
right.
and it wasn't Phil Morris. It was actually Bo Bender or Bo Don. And he's the one that taught me what a true mechanic is, right? Anybody can take something apart, but not everybody can put it back together.
That's it.
When did you realize that? Because that's something that I enjoy, right? Like putting like the challenge. Like when did you have an experience like that where you were like
early on, dad made me put fenders on, maybe, so in the body shop, I kind of did a lot of that. Yeah. On a simpler level, he didn't make me take the whole car apart. And but I do remember one time he took two Range Rovers, one that was crashed in the front, one that was crashed in the back, and took the chassis off of the one that had a clean front or a clean back, whatever. And basically put two cars together.
That's cool.
on one frame, So I watched him do that. But anyway, so kind of learned that in the body shop. But then most recently, what you just said was on the motor, on the 88 Special motor.
Really?
I cleaned out the carburetors and put all the new seals and everything. And I was like, okay, I just took this thing apart. Can I put it back together?
Yeah.
And thankfully I put it back together and started up on the first turn.
Isn't that such a great feeling too?
Yeah.
Like there's no better feeling in the world where it's like somebody's brought this to you and it's broken, right? And it's your job to fix it. And you don't know, you may know a couple things, but then it's like, for me, it's like a checklist.
Thank God for YouTube.
Yeah.
I should get an honorary degree from the U of Tube.
Yeah.
Because
I fixed washers and dryers on YouTube. I mean,
we need to make that. That is so cool.
Yeah.
Do they have something like that?
Let's do it. Let's create it.
Yes.
Honorary degree from the U of Tube.
That's awesome.
Of Tube.
Let's do it. And we'll start it right here on the Inlet podcast. Right? You watch X amount of Inlet podcast and we will send you a degree, a piece of paper that says the Inlet Podcast Master.
Do you think that that's a problem?
What's that?
Being able to find everything on YouTube.
It's a little. I do remember.
Right?
I do remember the days when I would have to like go to the library and do some research.
Yeah.
Right. Like I have my old gas engine manual. Hard copy.
Schematic, with like all the part
and
numbers
the cartoons
and stuff.
And the hand drawn schematics and everything. And it's like, man, I miss those days, but it's just too easy. It's too easy to go to YouTube and see somebody else do it. But I've never paid it back. Like I've never taken a video of myself fixing something, then shared it with the rest of the world. I feel like such a heel.
That's a good
for
idea.
Not sharing.
Well, you share knowledge on this show.
There you go.
I'm serious.
We'll see how it works.
With this. That's right. That's right.
We'll see how it works.
And we talk a lot about AI on here, and that's really a form of artificial intelligence, is to be able to go to YouTube and pull that information and it's a human being that's doing it right now, but that's what AI is doing. It's pulling and scraping from what humans have done and it's giving you that information. And it's kind of like almost like conditioning for AI is being able to go to YouTube and pull up a video.
I mean,
right
I thought
away,
about it today. I was like writing a sentence and I was like, I wrote the sentence in the AI to just like grammar. And I was like, oh my goodness, I'm getting so lazy. Right? But this current generation does not know anything different. What are the implications? Like, I don't know. Even in me personally, like super try to think that I'm like, motivated and unique in my own thoughts. And here I am using it, it's just like,
how do you feel about
personal opinion is, the whole laziness thing, right?
Right.
It's too easy to like, even just YouTube, like you're trusting that what's there is actually correct. It's not just some idiot putting the wrong information in a video and then you go try it and your car blows up. Right. You're trusting from the get-go that video is, but it's not been vetted. It's not been reviewed by anybody. And so, but anyway,
it's not been scholarly approved.
Well, that's what the comments section are for, though.
Yeah, exactly. Right? Yeah, the reviews. Yeah. But now, who's going to generate the reviews?
That's what we need to do.
AI. No, AI is going to generate the reviews for you.
The reviews
to make it look like the video is right.
And
I just think it's like anything new. There can be good uses of it, bad uses of it. I think it can be a very powerful tool. I've already seen it in action. And I think I think it's as long as folks don't get too dependent on it.
How do we do that?
I don't know. How do you
right? Like
how do we convince ourselves to make sure we're always at some point using our own brain to think about something?
That's something we have to figure out.
That's crazy.
No, but we have to figure that out. Just like with smartphones and how they could be such a great tool, but how they can be really, really awful for you too.
And just like GPS navigation, right?
Yeah.
I used it on the way down
I love
here.
it. It's pretty sweet.
I know Route 13, but I didn't know where to turn.
Right.
So I left the GPS on from the time I left the office down to here. So it's telling me where to turn left and right. I know I got to turn here.
Exactly.
But I didn't. I only needed it for the one turn onto King Street.
Right.
But I left it on the whole time.
It's a safety net.
Right. But then when I go to somewhere unfamiliar, I'm completely trusting it. Like I could have, like old school, taken the map out and and then memorized, okay, I got to make a left here or right there, look for this sign there. But now I'm just like completely dependent on the voice in the GPS. And how many U-turns have I done? Because I missed the turn.
Right.
On the way down here, I saw someone literally stop in the middle of Route 13, straddling the lanes. Okay. Straddling the lanes and made a U-turn without even looking in their, just made a U-turn. I was like,
just wait for it.
They missed a turn from their GPS. Right. There's only the one way to explain that. Is the GPS is like rerouting to make a U-turn here, but they were in the wrong lane, but they made the U-turn anyway.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah. That happened to me in the early 2000s.
Now I sound like an old guy complaining.
No, I got an old guy story. In the early 2000s when I was out in California, MapQuest when that first started.
I remember MapQuest.
You actually had to go on and put in wherever you were going. You had to print it out.
Print out the directions. Yes. Yeah, you get the map and the step by step. Yeah.
Right. So my goal was to go up into the Sierra Nevadas, and we were looking for a ski park. And so I printed this out from MapQuest. I was going from Beale Air Force Base up to somewhere over the Donner Pass. And I don't know if you know the story about Donner or not, but there's cannibalism and stuff that happened in one time back in the day, but not with me. But so
not with me, I swear.
It wasn't me.
But the MapQuest, it took me this side road and literally like I was looking over the side of the mountain going down hundreds of feet.
Sketchy.
And I'm like, where am I going? And it's still telling me, nope, I should keep going this way. And I'm like, I can't go anymore. Mm-hmm. That's so scary. And that's kind of like where we're at right now with AI. We're at such an early ages now with AI. It can be kind of scary because if you really don't know what you're doing, you could take a wrong turn.
Yeah. And
get into some really bad stuff.
Behind it, to check behind it, you got to know what answer to expect.
Right.
Check behind it, make sure it's giving you, if the answer should be kind of like red, but you get an answer that's yellow, you got to,
you should have that,
you should
right?
have that,
And people don't. Right, they just trust. I'm hoping the pendulum swings back.
Well, you're a teacher, so you're seeing it, right?
Yeah, it's bad, man. It's bad.
So kind of like your dad and how he brought you up. What are some of the things that you're, with your children, how you're teaching them, and some of the things you're showing them and the next generation right now? Like, what are some of the things that you brought from your father that you're able to use now?
So, mama and dad, for sure. Mm-hmm. Number one is faith. I'm a deeply faithful person. My family is too, wife and all three kids. Absolutely. And I think that's what kind of drives us, every day and really, just trying to keep the lessons simple, like, respect, humility, all the typical, but very true, very valuable sort of, buzzwords for parenting. And, my wife and I have, we've been through phases of, the helicopter parent phase. We've been through phases of, okay, leave them alone, let them figure it out. So we've tried to strike that balance. But thankfully, all three kids are very, they are very faithful. We always get a lot of good feedback from folks in the community about, respectful and polite and, that kind of thing. And that's what mom and dad, at least for me, and I'll when you interview my wife, you can ask her. Well, I'll just say I know for her, big thing is respect. Look someone in the eye, shake their hand, firm handshake, that kind of thing. Say hello, make sure you acknowledge people when you see them. For mom and dad, their constant message to me was bring honor to the family, and not in a way that's like overly burdensome or to scare me into, but just whatever you do, make sure it brings honor to the family name, and so I don't know that I've used those exact words with my kids, but just sort of the general approach to life is, make sure that whatever you do, your name's going to be attached to it.
That's right.
They're 17, 19, and 22, and I think so far so good.
Wow.
So they're on doing bigger and better things.
Oh
now.
yeah. I remember I think I told you, David, like age 11 or 12, my oldest son, he was like, all right, Dad, I don't want you coaching me anymore.
Yeah.
Because he knew that he had outsmarted me on the field, and anything I could teach him at that point wasn't going to help him anymore. He needed someone smarter than me to coach him. But yeah,
nice.
they've come along pretty good.
And you need that for everything. I mean, we need that now. We need somebody who's smarter than us that's able to coach us. And what are some of do you have mentors now that you're able to turn to?
Absolutely. At work for sure. Folks that have retired, and I can call on them and get some advice. Folks that I see every day. Like I said, culture, everybody's very willing to share. There's not a lot of this. No, this is my knowledge.
Right. And that is
it's a great culture up there of, cooperation and sharing knowledge, because we all want to be successful. And then, in the community, just, I've got a small circle of friends, but that, I think we've heard that before, right? If you got a number of friends that you can count on, you're blessed, because, you don't need an army of friends. You just need the 2 or 3 close ones, and folks that you can just kind of bounce ideas off of, or just joke around, and a little bit of humor, and talking about life's problems kind of interweaved into there. That's kind of my approach. But yeah, just having a good circle of friends that you can talk to when you need to, that's valuable.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's cool stuff.
Mm-hmm. So has faith always been an important part?
Yeah, cradle Catholic, and I went to Catholic school, elementary, high school, and even college. I mentioned I went to the Catholic University of America, and very, very much central to me and my family's life. Absolutely.
First of all, are we happy with the new Pope?
We'll see.
First American Pope,
I'm
right?
tickled. I'm tickled by the
Chicago.
the prospect of a Pope from the United States, and right now there's a shortage of priests coming from America. Most of our priests are international, because that vocation isn't as popular as it used to be in the United States for many, many reasons. And maybe Leo, from being from the United States, might inspire more to do that, but we'll see. I like that. His first words to the crowd were "Peace be with you." So that's I don't know if you've gotten an email from me anytime recently, but that's how I saw my emails.
Oh, nice.
I've noticed that.
All right, I saw my emails, peace.
Yeah.
And, I think that was cool that was the first thing he said, but we'll see.
Mm-hmm.
As long as he stays humble and, tries to listen for what the will is, instead of imposing his own, that's how we should all be,
Definitely. And I think growing up, I combined religion and faith to mean the same thing. Right. And I grew up Catholic as well, and was forced into it. It felt forced. And then was exposed to many of these creation types of alternate explanations, and decided to believe that instead. Mm-hmm. But now I'm sort of like coming back to this concept of faith all the time, because I think about it a lot of times. It's like sort of believing in something that you don't necessarily know is real. And for me, as like a very concrete, factual ocean person, right, I need to see it to believe it. But how does that work with you as a mechanical engineer?
Well, first you just have to. Okay, I'm not going to say you. The thought is it doesn't have to be either or. It doesn't have to be blind faith, as some people say it, or in your face facts. They both can exist. The way I've always explained to myself, why is it okay for me to be a person of faith but still be a person of science or engineering?
Yeah.
Okay. So in my interpretation of science is explaining the how of God's creation. How did he do it, or how did he make it work? How did it's so like taking something apart. How does this work?
Yeah.
It doesn't. You're not disrespecting the person that designed it or built it in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
You're just figuring out how they did it.
Yeah.
And I think that's the beauty of science is it's a gift. Like he's saying, hey, go ahead and use your brain to figure out how I make plants grow, or how I make the wind blow, or how I make rain clouds form. It's okay to be a scientist and to be a person of faith.
Yeah, I remember the first time I met a person that fit that category was a grad school advisor, and I was like totally shocked because I was like, "Wait, you can be both right now?" And that was like 5 years ago, and I think that's really neat that you can sort of, I don't want to say set aside, certain things, but you can coexist, right?
Because if we believe that creation all came from that one supreme being, whatever you call it, then it has to be all connected. It has to be a both and not an either or.
Yeah,
in my opinion. So well, not just my opinion, the church's opinion. I think I'm not speaking anything that the church doesn't teach.
You
weigh in here a little bit. You're a very spiritual person, which is different than faith, I would argue.
No, I mean it's the knowing, right? Knowing that to have a creation, you have to have a creator. Knowing that God being it, right? And you can't even imagine. There's things that are beyond us. It's kind of like with AI, right? That's one thing about AI is that I truly know and feel that AI can't create. It can't just come up with something out of the blue. It has to have something that's already been created. It has to have the information that's already out there to make something. Whereas, all of us were actually created. We were put together in a way that is beyond our thinking. And
so faith is like another word for trust. You're trusting.
Yeah.
Right.
You're trusting that there was a process that you currently don't comprehend.
Right.
Sorry to interrupt you.
No. Keep going.
Yeah. That's to help maybe explain, the whole faith concept is trust. You're choosing to trust that this more powerful being.
That's right. And just letting that go, right? And not,
being fine with not knowing.
Right? You can't control it. And the thing is that none of us know. But
I'm a scientist. Like I want to know. I figure out. I hypothesize, and
you need to continue to get to that point and learn and understand. And like Giovanni was saying, that we have been made in a way that we should be trying to go out there and get the answers and get the understanding, because that helps us grow so that we can move on spiritually as well, right? You can't have... I think it might be a topic. I don't want to get too deep into that today.
Can I offer one more thought?
Please.
So there's the knowing versus knowing now. It might be the the stumbling block. And I think that, so as a man of faith, I strongly believe in God's timing. So I think at some point when he feels I will know everything that he wants me to know. Now, whether it's in this life or in eternity, that's the part that I'm trusting, that at some point, he'll give me all the knowledge I need. But in the meantime, while I'm on earth, if I want to discover, how does this natural process work, or how does this work, or how does this come together, or why did this happen? I'm okay with diving deep and not feeling like I'm going against the creator by trying to figure him out.
That's what
right. That's right. And me, we are spiritual beings here having a human experience, right? We're actually here on this planet to learn what it's like to be a human, because our soul is going to move on and to something greater past this life. But take advantage of what we're doing right now and understand that you're only on earth for just a small amount of time. So learn as much as you can. Dive into it. Don't get frustrated by any of it. Accept it. Enjoy it. Have fun with it, because that's why we're here anyway, is to have that human experience. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. I just feel like sometimes I'm disrespecting the church when I ask scientific types of questions. And I feel bad,
That's understandable. But the church is very strong in its teachings about faith and reason, using both in our everyday lives. Meaning faith, trusting in the Word of God, or trusting in what we know to be, good and bad, and reason, meaning our ability to think, our ability to reason, our ability to figure things out. He gave us that gift too, and it's okay to use that.
So, do you think that society is trending away from faith and religion? Do you feel that way?
Yeah, and it's also scriptural. Sort of.
Is it?
It's
predicted
that
Wow. Okay.
And now, what we got to be, we as Christians got to be careful about is trying to predict the exact timing of everything, because that's scriptural too. You will neither know the time nor the hour of the end or the judgment or whatever it is that you believe in. But in terms of the trending away, but humanity has been here before also. If you go back and read scripture, humanity we've been sinning all along. It's just there's been different phases, different eras, different ups and downs, but the general trend is to try to be more individual centric versus putting that supreme being first.
Gotcha. Do you think some of the cultures in the past have been more advanced than us currently?
Yeah, I don't know. I think depends on what you're talking about, scientifically or spiritually, or
I don't know.
Yeah, that might be a good one for a sequel.
Yeah,
I can go do some research and maybe get brushed up on that.
So you're already saying you want to come back on at some point?
I'm leaving the door open.
You
guys have been pretty cool. Man. Yeah. This
Cool.
has been great.
So I want to get, before we're doing pretty good on time right now.
I'm on your time.
Okay, so I don't want to keep you here. And do you have anything else you want to talk about? This is a good conversation.
I really like this spiritual, I like this, but we can transition. I'm fine with that. Yeah.
So no, I want to go back to Chincoteague, because we've talked a lot about the lower shore, and we've talked a lot about, Cape Charles and especially growing up down there like I did, and a lot of the, his family and stuff. On what do you see going now into the future with Chincoteague? And, we talked about some past and some present. How does that look? What do you see going on now in Chincoteague that really excites you of the things that are happening now or springboarding into the future that people need to know about?
Well, I think to me, it's obvious that the whole shore, not just Chincoteague, but the whole shore has been discovered. When I first moved here, the thought was well-kept secret. This place is a well-kept secret. Not so much anymore. And I can understand some people don't really like that because the tagline is we don't want to become Ocean City.
Exactly.
But when me and my family want to get away, where do we go?
Ocean City.
We go to Virginia Beach. We go to Ocean City. But I'm not saying I want Chincoteague to be a carbon copy of Ocean City. But I think that Chincoteague and the surrounding area still offer a great escape from the sort of the stresses in life and just putting yourself in a position to enjoy nature and feel that peace, feel that calm. My pastor, he says that if you can, because the speed limit on Chincoteague is 25 miles an hour. He always says, if you can actually drive 25, then you are at peace, And
right.
so I think it's still and is going to be for a long time a great place to just chill out and find peace. My wife has she works in a restaurant and a lot of times she'll say that there'll be a family that obviously come from the city and they're all just wound up and she calms them down. She says, "Welcome to Chincoteague. I'm here to serve you. Relax, enjoy your vacation, enjoy your time here." And she says most of the time it works. It gives them a chance to just kind of, hit the reset button and breathe. But I think the whole town, and then of course the beach nearby, and then the water surrounding it, just give everybody that opportunity. So I think it's going to attract the people that like that kind of experience. I don't think it's going to attract the folks that want to go to Ocean City or Virginia Beach, as their nominal vacation, and then come in and be disappointed. That I think it's going to attract the folks that want to feel the calm and the peace. So yeah, there's definitely development going on and advancement going on, but I think it's being done in a smart way to keep the what makes Chincoteague special. Yeah.
I think they were we take a trip every year to the Chincoteague Bay Field Station. And we go back every year. And for me, it's cool because of the water quality, but also you can see year after year the causeway, what's happening. Did they just get done with a project, or is there a project in the works of elevating it? Do you know anything about that?
No, not familiar with
Okay,
that.
well, we can talk about the other little hotel-looking things on the back side of the island that you can rent. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Down on the south end?
Yeah. Are those popular?
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Like this morning, I took a run down there and I saw a few, I saw the new campground had a bunch of campers in it.
Oh, nice.
And the cottages before that, there was a few cars in the parking lot. So
yeah, there's like cottages and then there's like little floating, they're almost like floating houses.
Right. There's cottages, the floating cottages, and then the campground. And I think the first two are run by the same outfit. And then the campground is run by a separate one, I think, but I'm not 100% sure. The whole island is popular.
Yeah, it's wild because growing up there, it was busy, especially during pony penning around that time, but looking at it now and just how it has grown and where it's growing, and it's unbelievable. And the amount of people that are coming in and seeing it, and just like Cape Charles, like I really
enjoy Cape Charles.
I do.
Yeah.
I do. I love seeing that now. How beautiful it is now.
It's a beautiful place, and one thing I haven't done yet is go all the way down to the water. I guess is there like a little beach, sand? Yeah. I've heard a lot about that, and that's what I want to do next.
You should go during low tide. You can walk forever.
Okay.
It's so cool. That's my favorite tide, low tide. What's your favorite tide?
Well, it's
I don't know. You don't have to.
I don't like running aground in my boat.
There you go.
Which I have a lot of experience with from many years ago. So high tide for sure.
Mhm.
Although low tide's good because then you know where not to go, or you should. High tide can trick you.
It's always so funny. 4th of July, Cape Charles. I mean, everybody brings their boats and they just let the tide go out, and their boats are just like high and dry, just sitting on sandbars. You know what I'm talking about?
I've helped a lot of people get off of bars and stuff before.
You ought to come down to Cape Charles July 4th. There you go. If you're not doing anything.
I've seen people that come out there and because if the Coast Guard tows you, you're going to pay a lot of money to have them bring you in.
Probably.
And so you go out there and you're like, hey, I can pull you off, but $50, I'll help you. You're going to pay $200 if the Coast Guard comes out and they're like, okay, yeah, sure, let's go, let's get out of here. Yeah, I've been through that.
I've been on too many sandbars.
I know.
Yeah. Well, that's how you know that you're a great boater. That's how I measure it. If you're not jumping in the mud or sand and pushing off, you're not doing it right.
And getting your shins sliced by oyster shells. And
you're not doing it. What's that guy? You ain't no crabber. There's a guy on social media that's like, you ain't no crabber if you're not doing this. It's like, you're not from the Eastern Shore if you're not scraping your shins on barnacles and oysters.
Right.
How about, raising your children up there has had to be like massive besides, what the alternative would have been raising them around the DC area. And
I'll confess that I tried to move the family back to the DC area about 11 years ago. And it just wasn't right for our family. We were just too in love with the lifestyle here. And after a few short weeks, we decided to just come right back. And, at the time that was real stressful, but it was the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And, I think the kids are, they love the beach life. They love, the serene life, on the island, have great friends. That's the main thing though, is having a good network of friends. You can pretty much live anywhere.
Yeah.
If you've got that.
I was hoping Giovanni was his son's a really good baseball player. And when I was coaching Broadwater the last few years, I was like, man, you ever thought about
trying to
coming down to
recruit him?
Broadwater?
Yeah. What position does he play?
He's in his first year of college, played second base all season.
Nice.
Yeah.
He was a shortstop in high school.
He was a good
and pitcher, and smooth. Yeah, he was. I was like, man, he awesome to have him down in Broadwater.
Yeah, they're regrettably their season ended Saturday in the playoffs. They got eliminated, but they did make it to the playoffs and had 3 games, but regrettably got eliminated.
Where'd you say that he?
Chesapeake College.
That's right. I lost track of that.
Past Easton.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome to be able to go and do that, to move on to the next level and play is really, that's special. So but he's enjoying it.
Yeah. And he says, Dad, I love living by myself. And I was like, okay. I wasn't expecting that, but I can see it. I mean, he really, he does his grocery shopping, does his meal prep, so it was neat to watch that progression in just the last few months. Yeah.
That's huge. That's parenting, man. That's you and your wife have been able to provide him the foundation that he needs to go out into the world and be able to be successful like that. I mean, that's huge because with me, I didn't have that foundation. So, I had a scholarship to go play football and I just didn't, go to class. I just didn't even think about it. I played football and that was it, and so no, that's good. I'm glad that he's succeeding. And your daughter right now, what year is she in?
She's a junior in high school.
Okay. Yeah. And plays softball.
Softball.
All right. Yeah. How's that season going?
Yeah. So they're in the district games now. So a lot of the early part of the season is non-district games, but now they're into the district games now. And they're, I'd say, this year Arcadia has our number.
Yeah.
But they play. They're a young team this year, but they've been playing hard and doing their. They never give up. But it's been an up and down season. I think they're about a 500 team.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when she graduates and go off to college, what are you and your wife going to? Y'all have plans right now? What you guys are going to do? Y'all going to stick around the shore? And
oh yeah, we're not going anywhere.
Awesome.
No, it's because we know there's they're coming back. We know that at some point they're coming back, and and
they may not say it, but they will.
Oh yeah. And our oldest son, he got his associate's degree at the community college, and now he's working in the restaurant. And he loves it. He's like, I ain't going anywhere.
That's awesome.
He just loves the beach life. He loves working at the restaurant. He loves lifting weights and doing all that stuff. And so he's.
Sometimes I feel like that's a hard thing on the Eastern Shore, is to sort of find a balance between like trying to get people to come here and like trying to, like you're saying, keep it a secret, right? Because we do want to keep our nature and everything, but we also want to bring everybody up, and I just think that's a difficult thing to accomplish.
Well, no, I mean, it's the shore has always been that way. And it just, I don't know.
What we need is younger kids sticking around, right? A younger generation,
Right. We have to build that up, because it's like I had this conversation the other day with somebody that it's like somebody who has a business and doesn't want to train their employees because they're afraid they might leave. Well, if you don't train them, they're going to want to leave because they're not going to get any.
I agree.
Yeah.
Right. And so we can't be that way. We actually have to give the next generation as much knowledge, as much as we can of ourselves, because we want to keep it going. We want to be able to have things move and be successful, and for us to be advanced and move on to the next stage of human evolution. And we can't just not do it. And that's one thing that when I hear people talk about, hey, we shouldn't do this because we want to keep it a certain way. And it's like, shame on you.
I agree.
Yeah. And so is what programs and things are you seeing that are helping the youth around here, or what should we develop to, I'm talking even outside of science and technology and what else should we be doing here on the shore to help the shore grow?
Well, I think one of the things that has benefited my kids has been the recreational sports. We talked about that earlier, and that is big. And in some communities it's stronger than others. Like soccer is stronger in the middle part of the Eastern Shore than it was in Chincoteague, but we still had a thriving sort of recreational soccer league. We've got a thriving recreational basketball league now. So those kinds of things, I think those need to continue, and if they can be enhanced in any way, that would be great. I think just more more opportunities, like we were talking about with Dr. Rachel White, with the Aerospace Academy, like making sure that folks on the shore know that kind of career is attainable for folks that are from here, and not just folks that move here from elsewhere.
Right.
And so, and then I think just letting everybody know that, not everybody has to follow the same formula in terms of high school, college, career, then move back, and because everybody's got a different outlook on life, and your goal when you're in your 20s might be different than your goal when you're in your 40s.
Yes.
And it's okay to switch gears, and let me brag on my wife a little bit. She just on Saturday got her bachelor's degree from Old Dominion University.
Oh,
That's
nice.
awesome.
Congrats.
And has been chipping away at it for years, one class at a time, two classes
That's
at a time.
hard, man, with a family.
And
good for her.
She, coming up, school wasn't her thing, but then later on, she's like, she wanted it, and she went and just dove right in, and got good grades all the way through, and walked across the stage on Saturday.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So, I think letting folks know that everybody can have their own path, and that's okay.
That's powerful. That's good.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Is there anything else, sir, that you would like to discuss while you're here?
I just want to know why, or not why, how did you discover this room?
Ooh.
Lucas.
This is an amazing setup.
Lucas, come on here.
Brick
Tell
Room
us.
Studio.
So this was old photography development studio from
Nice.
the ESO Art Center. I think it was maybe 2-3 years ago. I decided to clean this room and maybe because my wife works here.
All right.
Actually, yeah. And then I said, this could be a great podcast room. I think it was 2 years ago, but I didn't have any money. I was working at an island house, bartending, and finishing community college and everything, and doing some construction work here and there. I cleaned up. I had an idea. I talked about it with a few people, especially because I was working in the water, so I kept talking about it.
Yeah.
And it never took, off. But it was all clean, all set up. I had a plan, and I bought some of the insulation materials, the acoustic insulation. And then 2 years after that, we were doing the Berlin Nutcracker, and Dave has his daughter is in there and his son too. So he was in here helping me pick something, and I was like, "Dude, do you want to see the podcast studio I want to build?" So I showed him, and I saw how excited he got, and I said, "I hooked this one." And then I was talking to Charlie. Charlie plays ukulele with my wife.
All right.
They're really good. And I told him, and he said, "Yeah, right, sure." So I showed him, and he said, "Okay, yeah, I'm down." So slowly now I have a good paying job. I have a career. My family is like grown now. We're 5 instead of 3.
Huh?
All right.
And I started purchasing little by little.
It literally started
it's like a jazz club. Like when I walked in here, I was like,
right?
"Where's the band setting up?" It's got a jazz club feel to it. And so it's going to be a ukulele club instead.
No, we do.
Yeah.
We do have a live studio down there. I'll show you that we do have concerts here.
All right.
Yeah. We'll probably. I'll send you away next time we have one. Then you can come down here and check it out.
Definitely.
Look forward to it.
Yeah,
And so Charlie was saying, it was literally every week there was something new.
Yeah, it started with just. Did we even have the monitor? Like,
No.
I don't think so. I think we just had microphones, and we were just like sitting down and talking. We didn't even have headphones. We didn't even know what it sounded like.
That's how Dave described it to me when he invited me. He's like, "It's just going to be friends talking."
Yeah.
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 And then we started getting cables. And then we started getting like equipment, and then it was cameras, and then microphones. I haven't bought anything. I feel horrible. But
Oh, the bill's coming.
yeah.
That's right.
Well, shout out to our sponsors.
Well, I didn't want to scare you guys, but yeah. But we're getting good. I think it's organically becoming something. The hardest part was choosing the name.
It took us forever.
I love
You
the
like
name.
it?
Love the name.
Cool.
Yeah. I told my son on the way over here, he's like, "That's a great name."
Sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, this whole building, I mean, it's of course the old school itself, but the third floor is ballet. The second floor, or I guess that would be the first floor. This is the basement, I guess. But there's karate and music and art, and I mean, it's thriving. And his wife actually.
See, another well-kept secret.
There you go.
That's right. That's right. And our children are here, almost every day, especially during ballet season. Spring and fall and winter, and this place is jumping still, and it's cool to be able to use this and to begin something like this.
Yeah. Is that a ballet joke?
It should be, right?
There's a
Pirouetting.
very strong ceramic studio.
Oh yeah, that's
pottery
true.
studio.
Pottery.
Very strong
You're into
program
that sort of
here.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's and just here, what we're doing here is just kind of, it's grown organically, and we've had no expectations. We've come in and said, let's just have fun with it.
But I enjoyed this episode. Like,
Same.
I felt like we got a little bit of like your history, which was good. I always want to know, like, how'd you get here, right?
Why? Yeah.
Why are you here?
Why are you?
And we answered that, right? We talked a little bit about living on the Eastern Shore, a little bit about society, a little bit about job, but not so much about job, but that's okay.
Who would you like to see on here?
Oh boy. Well, you know how fishing is so big. I think I've got a good friend who is really big into fishing.
Okay.
And I'll give you a name later.
Yes.
And then
Sweet.
Great storyteller, I'm sure.
Yes, we want that. Yeah, give us, because that's one thing that I put a plug in last week, and I'll do it again for those that are actually have invested their time into this podcast and have made it this far, that we really want to hear what you have to say too. And we want to hear your stories. So please put down in the comments on YouTube or reach out to us directly who needs to be on here, whose story we need to tell. We've lost a lot of people here recently who would have been perfect to come on here. We want to hear stories from the older generations on Chincoteague, Tangier, Smith Island, all up and down the shore. So if you think of anybody, just let us know.
Yeah, and Memorial Day's coming up.
Yes.
Maybe or when Veterans Day comes around, someone that can give some insight into just their military background. If they have it, that kind of thing.
That's right. We had Ted Shockley on here, and he's coming back on in a couple weeks. Had some great conversations with him and trying to get some people from. He's given us some ideas too as to who needs to come on here. But that's a great idea to try to get more some military too. That's for that as well. Yeah. Who else do you think, or what else do you think we should be talking about on here? We need ideas.
Put me on the spot.
You're good. I really want to get more artists.
Okay.
Music players,
Yeah.
painters, because
Decoy carvers.
something that's very unique. Decoy carvers, would be sweet. But we've had a lot of, and I'm not hating on it because I am a lot of scientists, like very, But we had Andre on here, which was cool.
That was your buddy from kindergarten?
Yeah. But it's cool to get a different perspective of somebody that grew up around here, but not necessarily from here, and then stays here and just loves it. So I love that for you.
Yeah. And going back to my parents' story, I mean, the little town that they were farmers during, the warmer months, but in the winter months, they went back to this town that was just this small town on the hillside in southern Italy, and just real close knit. And I think just knowing how that town was and how folks got along, I think that contributed to my love of Chincoteague, because it's a very similar thing. Everybody kind of knows each other, and there's a handful of families, and everybody's connected somehow, and I think that had a lot to do with it. So taking the old world and putting it here, I think the entire Eastern Shore has sort of an old world feel to it. That intimate feel to it.
It does, especially Tangier.
Right,
Tangier still does, big time. That's one thing. When I went to Sicily, my uncle Tony, who I've told these guys about before, Morbido, he married my dad's oldest sister. He was from Syracuse in Sicily, and so when I was there, I went out to Syracuse and looked for the Morbidos and found the little, I guess, tranche of Morbidos that were off on the side, and tried to explain to them who I was. They had no idea what I was saying. But, I was trying to, using broken Italian. I had a pocket translator. This is 1999, so I had this little pocket translator, and I would put something in and show them. But they took me in and fed me, and they probably thought, this guy's crazy. Like, what is he doing here? But just like that.
But hospitality's big there.
Huge.
Not just Italy, but all of Europe. But,
put your arms around you, give you a big hug, feed you, and
I finally took my family to Italy last August.
Nice.
And my family that I still have there, we never paid for a rental car. We never paid for a hotel. They wouldn't let me pay for dinner even. So we went through that whole vacation, and they just took care of us from the moment we stepped on the turf there to the moment we left. And, so that hospitality is such, and again, Eastern Shore, that's a big part of Eastern Shore life is hospitality.
That's right. That's why Andoya, Norway. That's why I love Norway so much, because it's the same. It's a very small town, very small community, but they're all just tremendous people. And I was able to spend Thanksgiving there, and we actually introduced Thanksgiving to a lot of them there.
That.
And then I was there for Christmas was coming up, and we did the Christmas parade with them, and actually held hands and sang carols around the Christmas tree downtown. And that, it's stuff I'll never forget. But that's what the Eastern Shore brings too. The same exact thing that these small towns all around the world. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to keep saying it. It's like, if people understood that and stopped watching the news and just got out and started talking to people and seeing these things, a lot of the things that are happening on the news are just so fabricated because that's what they want. It's not what we want. It's not what the people of the world want. The people just want to love and hang out and sit down with you and tell stories, and they don't care about the rest of the stuff. And people need to understand that. And so again, I'm hoping that folks that watch the Inlet podcast, they begin to see some of that. So at least I can say when I leave this earth that we tried to have them understand that what you see on TV is not how the world actually is.
Yeah. Yeah. Hearing stories, hearing people's history, hearing hopefully interesting stories, that's, sitting around the campfire. This is, kind of that.
That's right.
That feel that's what it's all about.
Yeah. And it's good family entertainment too.
Yeah, that's right.
We're trying we're trying to make it so everybody can watch this.
And I will be going to the 100th anniversary.
That's crazy. That's amazing.
When is it again?
Well, so this coming Saturday.
This Saturday
is a parade. The fire company's having a parade.
Okay.
At 11 o'clock. I think it's 11 o'clock. Check the Facebook. Check the Facebook. And then the fire company's having an open house immediately after. And that sort of begins the whole season of celebrating the 100th anniversary of pony penning, which is in July.
It's in July. It's when the main
event. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
And what's funny is that we at Wallops, we put our schedules around pony penning because we know we cannot launch anything during pony penning.
Well, it's not so much the launching part. It's like the outside visitors got nowhere to stay.
Oh, yeah.
But you can't move. It's like trying to move all that boat traffic and everything, to do something. It's like, it just can't happen. So we know that pony penning is off limits.
Yeah. Might as well shut down.
That and fishing tournaments.
That's right.
Fishing tournaments.
We've got a list of all the fishing tournaments that are happening.
Oh my goodness. And that's funny.
Try to, kind of thread the needle between them,
That's good. That's good.
It's one of those things that, you just can't make it up.
Yeah, you can't.
Thank you, Giovanni.
Yeah, thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for the hospitality. Thank you for the good stories.
Yeah, thanks for sharing.
Yeah, my pleasure.
All right, awesome. Thank you, Lucas.